The Napa Resource Conservation District manages a demonstration vineyard in California's wine country. A carbon farm plan underway shows Napa growers how to improve environmental practices while sequestering carbon. Charles Schembre oversees the vineyard's carbon farming plan.
We know that tillage emits carbon dioxide. It's potentially one of our greatest emissions of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. And these grasses here are photosynthesizing, and they're storing carbon through the process of photosynthesis.
Compost is applied to the soil in place of synthetic fertilizers.
We're adding carbon into the soil with the compost, but then there's an added co-benefit of enhanced productivity of the forage or whatever plant you're growing, which is then photosynthesizing more. And then that whole process with photosynthesis and storing more carbon in the soil.
In this area of the vineyard, every other row is no-till.
All things being equal besides tillage, you're gonna see how the non-tillage soil stays intact. It's not sitting with water. And all that storm water that came through here weeks ago, or throughout the entire season, has drained and infiltrated into the subsoil or into the groundwater. Oh, it's still actually pretty boggy here, so just depends where you're at. But if you look, I mean, you can see a drastic difference in the cover that we have here. There appears to be enough oxygen in here that the grasses will survive. In the tillage stuff right next to me, you can see we have about 3 to 4 inches of water just sitting on the surface of the soil. The soil can't drain the water. The pore space is collapsed. The soil has subsided into probably a large mass. We have anaerobic conditions here, basically like a wetland environment now. And that's what we don't want in our vineyard. When I lift this up, it is super wet, of course. But I still have this soil structure. It's still intact to some degree, right? I mean, obviously when soil's wet, you can really destroy the heck out of it, but we still have these aggregates, and this should drain off fairly soon, hopefully. We come over to the tillage stuff, and if we try to look at this stuff, we're looking at all these finer particles that aren't aggregated together through the biological glues. We have half the amount of organic matter in this stuff, so we don't have the soil structure here. It's gone. If we were not tilling, we would suspect it would look something like this. So we can look at non-tillage as being a tool in many, many ways to reduce erosion, store more carbon, improve our water infiltration. And I think just a commoner who isn't the city folk, who doesn't ever think about agriculture, might be able to come out here and say, oh, well, this looks better than this looks, right? It's kind of that simple. And we can get into the deep science, but our human eye is a calibrator as well.
The Vineyards Carbon Farm Plan calls for converting tilled rows to non-tilled rows as shown in this replanted area.
We're trying to create the natural characteristics of how soil develops. If we think of a forest soil, it's not disturbed and tilled. And so that's what we're almost mimicking in a non-tillage soil environment. We're creating a healthy soil environment, which takes years to develop. So if you're tilling the ground and you want to switch over to non-tillage, you're looking at a 5-year to potentially a 10-year plan to reestablish this healthy soil structure. These guys are the guys doing all the work. That's my focus on soil management, is to just have this bountiful life of biology in the soil.
The state of California is working to incentivize agricultural practices that contribute to healthy soil. Renata Brillinger, Executive Director of the California Climate and Agriculture Network, explains the plan.
The Healthy Soils Initiative is a brand new program, and it's got $7.5 million to spend this fiscal year. It provides money for farmers to improve the health of their soils and sequester more carbon in the soil. The state of California has, by law, established a goal that will reduce greenhouse gases statewide by the year 2030 to 40% below 1990 levels. This is a very ambitious target. It's on par with the best of any policy in the world. We have to drive less, we have to consume less energy, we have to switch to renewables. A whole shift in the economy has to be made. So agriculture's role in getting us to that target is really critical, because not only can agriculture reduce its emissions, but it actually uniquely can store carbon, can pull carbon out of the atmosphere and put it in soil and in plants where we need it to grow food. For the first time in the country, and possibly in the world, the funding is coming to farmers because the state understands that they have this critical role to play in addressing climate change.
Early morning, WM Earth Care covered aerated static pile composting facility, Novato, California, where computer technology is used to adjust airflow into compost feedstock and to achieve optimum temperature and moisture readings. The facility will create 36,000 tons of compost this year. Compostable materials redirection from landfills reduces methane gas emissions.
As the demand and awareness increases about diverting yard trimmings and food scraps from our landfill, we will have, and we already do have, plenty of this material to process. The demand will only increase because the state mandates are being put in place to further divert material from the landfills, including the yard trimmings and the food scraps. That is the source of our compost.
The benefits attributed to compost use are plant growth is stimulated by use, soil increases its water-holding capacity, there is a reduction in the reliance on chemical fertilizers, and the organic material is an aid in carbon sequestration.
Our process of mechanically aerating it and having the biofilter cap reduces the emissions ton for ton by 80% over windrow operations. And we were able to triple our throughput and still reduce our overall emissions by 50%.
WM Earth Care provides compost for the Napa RCD's Washika Creek demonstration vineyard. This mulch pile was created by chipping exhausted grapevines.
I think it's a real challenge for someone to walk out on their site and to really kind of look at themselves and their operation in the mirror and say, what am I doing out here that's contributing to carbon emissions? But that's kind of the interesting thing about the carbon farm plans is there's all these opportunities within it. And so, we can be improving erosional issues, you can be improving habitat, you can be improving the productivity of the soil and the farming, even the crop production. We can look at all of these factors, or grazing, the grazing forage, the agroecology, the ecology of the farm. We can enhance all of this. Talk like that, and then say, oh, hey, by the way, now there's all these carbon benefits involved in that as well. And you do have to make that connection for the landowner.